married to Agnes, and we're trusting God for kids. Amen. What I do, I've been within the space of working with the young people, especially from a bit vulnerable grounds, to empower them so that at least they can have their lives lifted to have a beginning, especially in the career launch opportunities. From where I stand, I can sniff career adjustments, though I don't think I would want to give all the details. When I was a bit younger, I was severely warned not to count my chicks before they're hatched. And so that will unroll with time, but it's not something so different from what I do today. Sorry. My presentation is informed by a few factors. One is the experiences that I've gone through, especially at the place of work. One most recent, the bit that one of us shared when we visited Mathare. And the way the gospel resonates with the needs of the poor. There are two men that I studied closely their works. One is Tim Keller, that we've interacted with in our materials. One is Jonathan Edwards, that some of us have read about him. Both of them, Jonathan Edwards talks about the gospel of charity, and Tim Keller talks about the gospel and the poor. Both of them, they are related in one way or the other. And I'm trying to look at this and relate to what is happening in our country. And there are a few things that perhaps we never knew. For example, did you know that during elections, there are people that are actually sponsored from some vulnerable groups? They're given money to go and register in some constituencies to boost the votes. And did you know that during the times of elections and the time we're having fracas, there's just a particular target that people give money to go and cause all that? You rarely find that there are a group of youths from Runda and Muthaiga going to the streets, to even Buruburu and the sorts. There's a particular target that the politicians and the people look at because they're vulnerable. And I'm asking myself, what can I do about this? I know I can't solve the entire bit, but I can contribute in one or the other. And so for me, I'm looking at, let me go to my next slide. The objective is to mentor young people, especially from vulnerable neighborhoods, that is informal setups, in leadership and employability skills. And the end goal of this is that in the next 5 years, we're having at least 100 young people equipped in leadership skills and made job ready. And also, if possible, by God's grace, they're connected to career opportunities for growth. And that is my aim. And as some of us shared here, I could already connect to a few that we can partner with to further this goal. So that is the what aspect. Going to why. Why am I coming up with this, even with the already existing organizations that do the same? Most of the organizations, the ones that I know, because I've worked in the informal sector, they do similar things, but they serve self-interests at the expense of the desired vulnerable groups. For example, go to Kibra. There are hundreds of NGOs and CBOs, but the effect is so little. Why? It's because there's a group of cartels that whenever help comes, they channel through these people that they get the bigger chunk. And then the leftovers are the ones that are going to the desired group. And number two, most of the other organizations are not keen about character formation. And I think these have been shaped by my experience in Hesabika. That for us to have a long-lasting impact, that we're not only looking at the person, but looking at this person from the heart. That when this person is changed from the heart and the mind, they're able to take actions that are godly. And number three, despite the many initiatives to reach out to the youth, there are still thousands who are unreached. And right now, one of the things that we are grappling with as a nation is the high levels of unemployment. And despite the many things that we are doing, unemployment has continued to be a recurrent issue. And I believe that in the way that the Lord will empower me, I can reach out to 100 or so. How? Apart from my first point of registering an organization, I'm looking forward to recruiting people in groups of 15 to 20, that is per cohort, for formal training. And I will partner with churches, like-minded individuals, some of whom are here, some are out of this space, and government. For all this is geared towards getting venues, finances, and also people to help me facilitate. And finally, I will work with a curriculum that each and every person, we have specific things they go through in the program. Some of the few challenges that I foresee as I work on this is balancing personal work, especially the area I'm going into next is a bit demanding. And I'm just thinking ahead that I could adopt a flexible program, say, for example, 2 Saturdays per month, so that I'm also able to move with the other side of life. And also identifying individuals, the right individuals for the program. I want to work with the locals from the neighborhoods that I'm targeting to help me get the right people for the same, and the financial capital, active partnership with resource centers, and one of us has volunteered, that is JC. I will look for you in camera. Other plans, commitments is to embrace integrity and excellence in all my dealings, even as I yearn to emulate and represent Christ in all things. And finally, to use every platform to stand and be counted and actively participate in enhancing the dream of Hesabika. So that is the end, and may the Lord bless you.
Can't engage the macro challenges entirely, but have you thought about the connection between your micro action, the 100, and its influence on the macro? Because you've talked about leadership and employability. I think just thinking in terms of how does that ultimately, how is that meant to translate into changing the macro problem?
How would transformation look like after you work with them? We've talked of employability skills. Some of the disadvantage could be their background and the opportunities available. One of the transitions I'm personally longing, which isn't yours but mine, is where we are not focusing on just the employability skills, but also ability to create employment as a thrust that as a nation we need to go through. Because in our nation, we look like if you cannot find employment, then that's when you create employment. So that how will transformation look like after they have gone through this program and whether internship, so that you are moving them from vulnerability to stability and engaging the economy like every other citizen.
The transformation is supposed to, this is how it's supposed to look like in the, let's say, the 5 years that I'm working with. That these 100 or so, they form a network of, like if each and every person only reached out to 2. Because I mentioned one of the challenges, the gaps we're facing, is the interest in character. And you see, once a character is modeled, then even saying no to the many times they're being mobilized to do some of the things they do is very possible to say no and look at life from a different perspective. So that talks about the transformation from within. And I believe that when someone is transformed from within, the way they look at things is quite different. If there are no jobs, I'm talking about this with an experience where we've worked even with people who have not gone to colleges and trained them and gotten job opportunities for them. Even though this might not work like 100%, but in the end, we are having if we only did 75% of the guys we train are able to get opportunities, I count that a success. Because again, attaining 100% could be difficult, the way Francis puts it, but I'm looking at least 75% of these guys are placed somewhere, both formal and informal, because I'm not just looking at the white-collar jobs. There are so many opportunities the youth can grab. Internship, thank you for that advice. And I believe the government is so pro-internship, especially in this era, and we can also seize such opportunities to have a few of them placed, having the skills. The macro versus the micro. We have so many macro problems, and I thank you for raising that up. How do you link that to the small bits? When we, for example, look at a macro problem like inequality, that this cuts across not just in Kenya but across the world. Inequality is a great problem as we talk currently, and that it comes about because the ones who, on the other hand, that is the high, they take advantage of the ones who are on the lower side. I want to believe that when these are empowered, we're able to bridge the gap, open their eyes to the opportunities, not just the white-collar jobs, but also they're able to see the opportunities around them and to create jobs for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Final clap to Bramwel as best to sit down.